Hi, and welcome back to another video. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about my favorite book tropes and some book recs in regards to those tropes. So let's get right into it. Alright, so book tropes. Some people have asked me, like, what are book tropes and how many are there? How many tropes can be in a book? Book tropes are really just kind of the themes within a book. So you have marriage of convenience, you have friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, bully romances. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of romance tropes. So, and book tropes really in any genre. So for me to dwindle it down to my top 5 was a little bit difficult. And I also will say that a lot of books use multiple tropes. So it might be a sports romance book, but it's also going to have friends to lovers, or it's going to be enemies to lovers, or whatever it may be. So my top 5 favorite book tropes, pretty much if I see this as like the main theme of the book, I will probably at least look and maybe read it, or at least think about reading it. And those are marriage of convenience / arranged marriages. Those kind of interchangeable for me. Best friends, brother or sister books, age gap books, sports romances, and then friends to lovers. So to start off with marriage of convenience, to kind of go over some book recs and why I like that trope. I just think it's a very fun book type of idea, to be honest. Most of the time the story is kind of unrealistic, like this is not going to happen in real life, but very funny sometimes. Really seeing kind of the character development, the relationship development is always super fun and really cool to listen to and read about. So the first book is Marriage for One, which is by Ella Mays. It is a kind of like marriage of convenience book that she is needing funding for starting a shop, and so this guy provides the funding, and they get basically he provides the funding through them getting married for like an inheritance and stuff like that. The second book is Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark. This book is a kind of enemies to lovers marriage of convenience, so it's two kind of rival families. And then the main guy, Cal, and the main girl, oh gosh, I'm probably forgetting her name. What is her name? That's awkward. Her name is Ada. That was a fun moment. But basically it's like an enemies to lovers, rival families, marriage of convenience type of book. The third book is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. She writes pretty much all of her books are slow burn romances, so that's another kind of, I guess, theme or trope with hers. This book is a marriage of convenience as well, where it's a boss employee. He's a football player, she's his assistant, and he basically needs to get married kind of for immigration reasons. He's from Canada and he plays in the US. And then the last book is Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This one is another kind of boss employee marriage of convenience. Basically, he needs to get married to get his inheritance. So this is another good one. The second one, Best Friends, Brother / Sister. This is another one the stories itself are a little bit unrealistic, but they're always just like really fun kind of stories themselves. So the first one is Twisted Love by Ana Huang. This one is billionaire romance as well, where he's a billionaire and it's his best friend's sister. So it's really good. And the second book that I have that's a rec for Best Friends Brothers, Twisted Hate, which is the third book in this series. This book is actually about Ava's brother, Josh, and her best friend, Jules. And so, again, this trope is a little bit kind of, I don't want to say like unrealistic, but some of the themes in it, you're like, okay, maybe not, maybe can. The third one is The Right Move by Liz Tomford. It's actually a book I recently read. It's another sports romance where they're like forced proximity of having to live together, and then they start fake dating and then they get into an actual relationship. So it has multiple tropes in that book. The other book is My Best Friend's Sister by QB Tyler. QB Tyler is one of my auto-buy authors. I love her books so much. She writes a lot of forbidden romances and those types of books. And then the last book is Center by Sierra Simone. This one is where she is about to go into a convent, and so she asks her brother's best friend to like show her all the things about the world that she's going to miss while she becomes a nun. And then the next one is age gap romances. This is probably my favorite trope. Now, age gap always has other tropes around it. So the first one is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This one is also like ex-boyfriend's dad relationship, so the age gap is pretty big in that one. It's the same thing with Praise by Sarah Kate. It's also an ex-boyfriend dad book. Age gap romances are probably, to be completely honest, are like definitely probably the most unrealistic books out there. That's probably why I enjoy them so much, because it's not, a lot of the storyline is like, this is not going to happen in real life. The third book that I would recommend is Ignite by Melanie Harlow. That is where he's a firefighter, and she is like babysits his kids, and then they started a relationship. And then Tis the Season for Revenge by Morgan Elizabeth is a recent book that I read that I really liked. I'd never read anything by Morgan Elizabeth, but this book was really good as well. It's ex-boyfriend's boss, and she just kind of dates this guy on a whim to kind of get back at her ex-boyfriend, and they end up actually, getting together in the end. And then the last one is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. That book is it's called a reverse age gap in the sense that the woman is older, and it's a small town romance as well. And then the next one is sports romance. The first book rec that I have is A Blind Side by Candy Steiner. That book is a football romance, fake dating book. And then the entire Dirty Air series, which is a 4-book series by Lauren Asher. You have Throttled, which is brother's enemy theme. You have Collided, which is kind of like a forbidden romance. He kind of he's the driver for her dad's team. And then you have Wrecked, which is kind of another sort of forbidden romance in the sense that she was hired to repair his image as like a PR person. And then the last one is Redeemed, which is kind of like a fake relationship, fake dating. So all of those books also had like other tropes in them as well. That's the big thing with sports romance, is like there's a lot of additional tropes in those books. And then the Blindsided by Amy Dawes is another book that I really recommend. It is a best friends to lovers book that also is where he's like a footballer, a soccer player in Scotland, and they become friends and they start a relationship. And then The Brentwood Boys by Megan Quinn, that is a baseball romance series. Again, has a ton of different tropes in it as well. And then the last one is The Fantasy League by Meg Reading. This book is a boss employee. She's about to quit, but he's like in love with her, so he asks her out on a date when she's like coming to him to quit her job for him. So it's a very, very different idea to the whole sports romance boss employee philosophy. And then the last trope that I have, my favorite trope, one of my top 5, is Friends to Lovers. The first one is The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This one is also a sports romance, but he is a football player and she owns a dance studio, and so they start dating throughout it. He gets his friends involved to try and convince her to date him. It's like a really cute story. And then the next one is People We Meet on Vacation. This one is a little bit of like friends to enemies to lovers. Then like back to friends then to lovers, which was a very interesting way of kind of the friends to lovers trope. The next one is the Lovelight Farms book by B.K. Borison. Basically they're in a fake dating relationship because she submitted an entry to win a sweepstakes for her business, and she said that she had a boyfriend, and so she asked her best friend to be that boyfriend when the influencer came to her farm. The Heir by Sophie Lark is another Friends to Lovers book that I really enjoyed. It's basically that they go to like kind of like a college for these like super rich kids, and these two are like best friends, and so they start dating through the book. And then the last one is A Long Time Coming by Megan Quinn. That one is another Friends to Lovers. They've been friends for a long time. She's engaged at the beginning of the book, and so him realizing that he's like in love with her and like trying to convince all of those things. So yeah, those are my top 5 favorite book tropes. And let me know down below if you have any favorite tropes and what those are. But thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope see you all in the next video. Bye!